Maxent, what is poetry?
Poetry is words perfectly knitted like cotton on a thick jersey. Poetry is life birthed in word flavors that don't take away but give more meanings to one's existence. But I wish it was a brand though.
What would it do?
If poetry was a brand, beauty wouldn't be determined by the angle one elevates their selfie-stick or the thickness of makeup layers. If poetry was a brand, it would personify realness and not less dignifying actions for social media clout. I doubt if booty or nuts would make one attain social media following. If poetry was a brand, like a proton, it would promote positive vibes, you see. If poetry was a brand, a force of change would be born. Promoters and managers would promote scarcity instead of mediocrity in the name of who has the larger numbers, misleading the multiplicity of kids in the community. If poetry was a brand, sanity would reign. Adults would stop opening their zips in front of infants. At a place, parents would respect their daughters for children that they are. No father would see a wife in a daughter. The flame of culture would be ignited, and all would be united. If poetry was a brand, a neighbor's success would come first. No one would practice juju to bottle shrink another person's breakthrough. Mars, what do you think?
There is more to it than just bars, punchlines, and metaphors. Poetry is creativity of words wonderfully and undoubtedly being expressed mysteriously and unapologetically in a word that conveys a message that warms hearts and emotions. If poetry was a brand, it would walk its talks and not just to attend fame, but serve those whose best interests at heart. If poetry was a brand, it would have served the best words. Words that healed troubled hearts. Words that brought hope to a mother who held a dying child in her arms. Words that brought peace upon couples that had differences. It would address pain, depressions, the needy, and make them identify their niche. If poetry was a brand,
kindly share. Please share, invite your friends as we get started.
Many souls took to their grave, and no secrets would exist. Our women wouldn't open them legs as theater doors and movie nights, but would have...
Kindly share the video. Please share the video as we get started into this amazing analysis of Zambia and Singapore and the business lessons we can learn that can help us to grow in 2023. This poetry is led by Jack, the sole writers, Maxent. Wonderful and talented young man.
Peace, sorrows lie, and wanted pregnancies would be a thing for the past, extinct. Our kids' mind would embrace our culture, adults would be respected, religion wouldn't be politicized, our minds would be virgins.
Kindly share.
Poetry was a brand. But these psychedelic fireflies that light up our pathways. It's black child poetry, the soul artists.
Amazing poetry there by Mouth the Soul Writers and his colleague Maxent. All right, guys, a beautiful afternoon to all of you. Welcome to this presentation. Please share the video. Let me know where you're watching me from. Where are you? How are you? How has been your day? And how is the afternoon going? So we are getting into a comparative analysis of Zambia and Singapore. Now, these are some of the business lessons that we can learn from Singapore. We have noticed that in 2023, business has been so tough for many Zambians. People are losing money. Everything is going sideways. So we thought, let's bring to attention a country that in a way is similar to us, but they have done phenomenally well on the world stage. What lessons of growth can our Zambian government, can our Zambian citizens, and can our Zambian SMEs learn from the Singaporeans? We have to face it, people. If we look at the current statistics, and according to a report that was issued by Credit Suisse in 2020, Singapore has the highest percentage of millionaires per capita in the world. Not just in Europe, but in the world. with approximately 2 in every household having a net worth exceeding 1 million US dollars. Can you imagine, people? 2 in every 5 households have a net worth exceeding 1 million US dollars. Now, this means that the household ratio of millionaires in Singapore is around 40%. Can you believe that? That's phenomenally well. So, we want to learn from what the Singaporeans have done that we too here in Zambia can do. There are so many lessons that we can draw from the way the Singaporean government, the Singaporean citizens, and just the way their SMEs run their businesses, the strategies they have used that we too can use. It is worth noting that this report defines millionaires as someone with a net worth of at least 1 million US dollars, including the value of their primary residence, but excluding any liabilities. That's how the Singaporeans, measure their net worth. So it's extremely important that we understand, we follow through this presentation. It's going to help us a lot to come up with ways, both as a government, but also as citizens, on how we can benefit from the lessons we are drawing from the Singaporeans. So, of course, my name is Shadrick, and I'm going to be your host. So let's get into the business for the day. All right. We want to look at this in a different light. So if you look at the data that is showing on your screen, you can clearly see we are going to go into a comparative analysis of Zambia and Singapore. So what we are going to focus on in this presentation, we're going to focus on the major variables. For example, look at the Singaporeans population. We look at the Singapore GDP and look at the Singapore development levels. And then we compare that to Zambia. And then we see how Zambian government, how Zambian people, and how Zambian businesses can draw lessons that are of utmost importance in the year 2023. So please, friends, I invite you to comment, to like, to share, and please tag those you care about. Sharing is caring, and you guys have chosen to come and consume knowledge. Knowledge is important for growth. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being such a mature audience. And I encourage you to please share the video, invite somebody you care about, tag somebody you care about, so that they too can come and benefit from this information. So now, look at a few statistics here. Like I mentioned earlier, that Singapore, according to a report by Credit Suisse in 2020, Singapore has the highest percent of millionaires per capita in the world. No country on earth beats Singapore when it comes to the number of millionaires, because for them, 2 in every 5 households, they have a net worth of 1 million US dollars. So about 40% of Singapore population are millionaires. What have they done right? Look at Zambia. Zambia got its independence in 1964. Singapore got its independence in 1965. So we are extremely similar, Zambia and Singapore. And if you look at the Zambian map, you're going to see that Zambia is a landlocked country. Zambia has a very, very good position, well located, just like Singapore. Singapore has a strategic location, just like Zambia. So we have a lot of similarities when it comes to independence, it comes to location, all right? But even better, Zambia has an advantage. Zambia has a population as of 2021 of 18.88 million. Singapore, as of 2021, has a population of about 5.7 million. Look at other statistics. Zambia, which has 18.88 million people, has a GDP as of 2021 of $19.46 billion. Singapore, with a population of 5.7 million. Now, guys, if you have a calculator, you're going to get 18.88 million. You divide by 5.7 million, you're going to see that Singapore goes into Zambia 3.31 times. They have a GDP of $364 billion as of 2021. Now, compare the GDP of Singapore, all right, to that of Zambia. Zambia is standing at 19. Singapore is at 364. billion. Zambia is standing at 19.46 billion dollars. So Zambia goes into Singapore's GDP 18.71 times. Look at the opposite. Singaporeans' population is 3 times lower than that of Zambia, but their GDP is 18 times higher than that of Zambia. What does that mean? It means that Singaporeans people are more productive than the Zambian people. How can 5.7 million people have a GDP that is 18 times higher than you who have the population 3 times higher than them? That's not making any sense at all. All right. So those are just a few statistics you can look at just to see where Singapore is of 2021 and today, and also, of course, where we are. So when it comes to development levels, these we talk about things such as the income levels in a country. Zambia has been classified as a low income country. Singapore has been classified as a high income country. But notice, Singapore got its independence in 1965. Zambia got its independence in 1964. So Zambia was got its independence quicker than Singapore, and yet they are 18 times behind the Singapore's GDP. What went wrong? What lessons can we learn from this? So just think of those few bits, people, and now tell me what to think. 5.7 million have a GDP that is 18 times higher than us, who are 18.88 million. What that means, a GDP is simply, of course, we're talking about the total of all the economic activities that have been produced in a particular country. All right, just for element to understand. Businesses that we've been doing, everything. If you own a business, if you are doing some side hustles, you are paying whatever it is that you are doing economically contributes to the growth of the GDP. So for a GDP to grow, both the government and the citizens must participate. So we can see from here that the Singaporeans have outperformed the Zambians. They're just 5.7 and they have a GDP of $364.61 billion. That's a lot of money. So I'm just giving you an overview of the key statistics when it comes to Zambia and Singapore. This is just a comparative analysis. Location-wise, Zambia is landlocked. We are surrounded by other countries, just like Singapore. It has a strategic location. All right. Singapore is good for tourism. Zambia is also excellent for tourism. So we have a lot of similar features when we compare the two countries. Let's go to the other variable that we can look at, that can help us to understand Singapore even better. So we talked about the key, of course, statistics. Now let's go and compare the household ratio of millionaires in Singapore and Zambia. We said, as I mentioned earlier, we mentioned earlier that in Singapore, according to a report by Credit Suisse in 2020, it was established that Singapore has the highest percentage of millionaires per capita in the world, with approximately 2 in every 5 households having a net worth of exceeding $1 million US. 2 out of every 5 households are millionaires. Can you imagine that? That's extremely amazing. Now that means the ratio of household millionaire in Singapore is around 40%. 40%. And according to the way they count their millionaires, for them, they count someone to be a millionaire if they have at least a net worth of $1 million US, including the value of their primary residence. That means a lot of people in Singapore don't rent houses. They live in their own houses. They've built their own houses. And then that may also, of course, excluding the liability that may have. That's extremely important to note. So there are several other factors we can look at when it comes to household ratios of millionaires. If you look at Zambia, the Zambian household ratios of millionaires is extremely appalling. Zambia has no statistics. There is no statistic that is available for how many millionaires we have in Zambia. We've not even made it to have statistics published. That's how behind we are as Zambians. So, other few statistics we can look at here are these ones here. We can look at the factors that are helping the Singaporeans to be so successful. Why are these people so successful? They are just 5.7 million and their GDP is 364 billion. Our GDP is 19.4 billion. We are how many? 18 million Zambians. We have been outperformed 18 times. Why? What have these people done so well that makes them to succeed? So, for us to understand what Singapore has done well for them to succeed, we must look at four important variables, extremely important for every economy that wants to grow. And these are the lessons I strongly believe the Zambian government can also learn from the way the Singaporeans have, from the way the Singapore has performed. Number one factor that we can learn from the Singaporeans is this one here. If you look at Singapore, Singapore has prioritized four important variables in their economy. Of course, there are other factors, but these are the main ones which they have focused so much on. Number one, they've looked at economic policies. What economic policies has Singapore done that has made them to be so successful? Now, we look at Singapore's economic policies. One of them is a policy they call pro-business environment. What that means, it means the Singaporean government has decided to prioritize SMEs. They do everything they can to support their SMEs. That is why a huge population of the Singaporeans are SMEs. They are doing their own businesses. They are living in their own houses. How has the government made these policies? They have given the SMEs low tax rates for businesses and individuals. And of course, they have given them attractive incentives for them to do their investments. Look at Zambia, for example. Zambia has very poor business policies. If you look at the 2023 budget for Zambia, the SMEs were put under the bus. We were put under the bus by our own government. It's not a secret. All right. Of course, there are several other factors in the budget that I really liked, that were extremely amazing. But when it came to taxes, I felt that we were put under the bus. I felt that even the employees, those that were given those tax bans, were swindled because the cost of living was way higher than the tax that was given to the Zambian people. So the Singaporeans, the Singapore government has made it a priority to become pro business. In Zambia, 2 days ago, we saw a reduction in the fuel pump prices. That was a disaster. All right. Well, a lot of us were saying, yes, nice, we're going to spending small amounts of money, but let's just face it, people. What variable do we look at for important commodities such as fuel to go down? We look at a lot of important variables. We look at inflation, all right? We look at the forex, the kwacha to the dollar. We look at transportation costs of moving fuel from outside to Zambia. All those things are showing that they are going up. And yet, what did we see? A reduction in pump prices, total opposite of the important economic variables. It was a political move that is going to send the oil MCs into huge losses, and that's not good for business. So, if you look at the way Singapore has performed, they don't just wake up one day because they want to appease the masses and then they say we're going to reduce fuel so that people can be happy and say we are working. When you are burning your own SMEs, your own business are going down. You are burning. What actually happened a few days ago was a hammer in the heads of those oil marketing companies. That was a total disaster. It wasn't a reduction that a well-meaning analyst, a well-meaning Zambian should jump and say, yes, there's a reduction in fuel prices. No, these OMCs are going to make huge losses. As of today, we're talking of approximately 400 million in losses. As of today. So the policy that the government brought in a few days ago, all right, where they reduced the fuel for the Zambian people, and the Zambian people were excited, saying fuel has gone down. Yes, that was a fictitious reduction. That is going to send a lot of OMCs into huge losses, extremely huge losses. It was a total disaster. Do you know why we say so? We say so because what makes the important commodities to go down? We look at other economic variables. Inflation is one of them. We look at, forex, a lot of important variables in the economy. All those things are the total opposite of what happened. So that was not really a very good move for the government to reduce the fuel pump prices. Maybe they could have, looked to maintain it and like reducing it the way they did. All right. So now Singapore has done extremely well. All right. Singapore has done phenomenally well in this regard. They have economic policies that are pro business, but also when it comes to education, you're going to notice here that education and human capital development have been prioritized in Singapore. Singapore has high quality education system. Singapore it focuses so much on STEM education. They have put more emphasis on skill development and lifelong learning. People in Singapore love to learn. In Zambia, we don't love to learn. Zambians are okay to go and watch a young lady twerking the whole day, but they're not okay to learn business strategies that can help them earn more money. They are not interested. You can see even right here, we are offloading extremely important information that can help somebody to learn and build their own business. But how many people are interested? People, let's just face it, very few people are interested. Do you know why? Because in Zambia, we don't emphasize more on skill development and lifelong learning. We hate learning. This is why it's difficult to grow. Look at the Singaporeans. 40% of the population are millionaires. Look at Zambia. We don't even have data for how many millionaires we have in Zambia. We don't have the accurate data. There's no data available because we don't love to learn. Look at the way Singapore has done when it comes to infrastructure and urban planning. They have made sure that they put in place an efficient transportation network. Singapore understands that if people can move quickly from point A to point B, point A to point Z, it is going to make business easier. In Zambia, we have not really you see the way people build houses. One house is located in the eastern side, the other one is in the southern. You can't even know where to put a road. It's very difficult. Singaporeans have said, you know what? Let's have efficient transportation network for easy movements of goods from one place to another. If you want to have a meeting in Singapore, you can have a meeting in Kitwe. You leave Lusaka in about an hour's time or so. You are in Singapore. No problem. In Zambia, it can't happen. You have to be on the road for 5 hours, 8 hours before you can get to Kitwe. They have built smart cities in Singapore. They have come up with sustainable urban designs that are suitable for investment, that also are suitable for business growth. So Singapore has focused so much on infrastructure and urban planning. And if you look at the way they govern themselves, Singapore is one of the countries in the world that has good governance. They are politically stable. They have extremely effective anti-corruption measures. And we have also noticed that Singapore has transparent and accountable governance system where the leaders are held to account without threatening the public. In our country, if you speak against the government of the day, you are labeled as a member of a certain political party, and before you know it, a slew of different cadres from all walks of life are going to come to your page to insult your ancestors, insult everyone close to you, call you all sorts of names. Why? Because our political system is not a transparent one. It is one that does not allow accountability as a way of life. If you hold a president to account for the promises he made, immediately you are labeled as being sent by someone. I saw a question myself uh, on a press conference that the president had a few months. Not that I'm against, but here's an example. A journalist asked a question, and she said, there is this narrative that most of your words are rhetoric, you don't take action, but you make lots of promises. And the president said, I know where that is coming from. What does that tell you? It made it look like the journalist who was asking a question was sent by someone he knows to just target him or to just embarrass him. That's not a good way. So it is small things like those that will show you that we don't embrace transparency and accountability as citizens. This is why we are unable to put our leaders to account for the promises they made. Because anybody who thinks otherwise is going to be labeled as being sent by someone, being sponsored by someone, or coming from a certain political party. And it's not supposed to be that way. So the Singaporeans have done phenomenally well in governance. And remember, when governance is good, when the environment is conducive, it makes it easier for investors to come and invest in your country. No investor wants to go and invest in a country where the governance system is in total mess. Look at what happened just a few days ago. The government just wakes up one day and says, we are going to reduce fuel by so and so. Of course, some people are excited, but let's face it, the business owners are extremely sad because they are going to incur huge losses. That's the fact. So if you have a government that acts on emotions because they want to calm down the public, they want to make the people stop talking about the discontent that is growing. Then they wake up one day and then they say, we are going to reduce fuel prices from so and so to so and so without having to look at other important variables in the economy. That's a total disaster. There are times where fuel has been reduced and I've said, wow, fantastic. But let's just face it. Look at our inflation rate today. Look at other economic factors. Look at the dollar against the kwacha, forex. Look at all those factors. They are the total opposite of what happened. What is the biggest cost that we have when it's come to fuel? The biggest cost that we have is transportation. Do you know why? Because we pay in dollars. The dollar is going up. That means the cost is also going up. But what do we see? A reduction. What's the meaning of that? It's a fictitious reduction. It will not stand for a test of time. Very soon they are going to increase. So it is things like these that are making it difficult for Zambians to progress because the oil marketing companies have incurred losses. As of today, as I tell you, people are talking about over 400 million in losses because of that simple reduction of 3 kwacha. So you impress the public so that they stop condemning you, but you bury the SMEs, the business owners. It's not right. It's not okay. That's not how you're supposed to do a governance. So if you look at Singapore and Zambia, Zambia has a lot to learn from Singapore. Holding our leaders to account for the promises they made is one of the features that contribute to the economy's growth. In Zambia, you can't, even what I'm saying here, some people may be extremely offended and label me a politician. I'm not a politician myself. I don't belong to any political party for you, and I'm not a political analyst. I'm an objective commentator. I'm a certified financial analyst. I don't pretend. I have to tell you the way it is. That reduction was a total disaster. While you may be happy to be paying less, I can assure you the SMEs, the OMCs are crying right now. That was a reckless reduction. So now, what other thing can we look at that we can learn from the Singaporeans that they have done extremely well? That we can say, you know what, this is the way to go for us to grow. Let's look at another variable that we can learn. What are some of the lessons our government can learn from Singapore? Look at Singapore from this angle. Singapore has policies that support economic diversification. Singapore has reduced reliance on natural resources. Zambia has a lot of natural resources. We have put so much reliance on natural resources. Look at the KCM case. It's been going for years now in court. No, there was no so. No, there was a so. No, we are going to give a data. We are going to. What is going on? We are so much dependent on natural resources. If we imitate Singapore, who said, you know what, let's reduce reliance on natural resources and empower the citizens. Let's not get CDF and give to a few cadres. Let's get CDF and put forth measures. For example, if you are going to give out CDF to people, say this, say, okay, fine. Anybody who's going to qualify for CDF must go through an investment class. And many of us are available to take you up on that. If our government can come on board and call all of us, the experts in the system, and say, hey guys, let's work together. Let's create courses. We have courses that can help people who are getting CDF to learn how to assess risks, to learn how to make projections, to learn how to come up with, a proper cash flow saving system. But what we see, somebody wakes up, is politically aligned, goes to apply for CDF. The next thing you know, they've been given and they go to pay rent, they buy Brazilian hair, and they go and buy a car, they post on social media. It's not helping. So we have to begin to focus on what? On issues that are going to help our citizens to start becoming more productive. As a nation, we have to develop sectors with high growth potential: technology, manufacturing, tourism. All these are areas we can grow. So, like I said, when we have CDF, which is being increased, we can identify SMEs in the technological field and support them. We identify SMEs who are in the manufacturing industry and support them. We look at tourism and support it, because these are economic issues that can help our country to go up, to grow. Look at investment in infrastructure. Singapore has done phenomenally well. All right. Like I showed you in the previous slide. In the previous slide, we saw that Singapore has prioritized a good and efficient transportation system that allows you to move from point A to point Z in a record time. Very quickly, you are from Kitwe to Lusaka having a meeting. Before you know it, you are back. That's the way we're supposed to start thinking about. In Zambia, we had Clive Chilwa, who was brought by the late President Sata. He had a plan. But because we are selfish, we criticize the man for a few dollars. By now, our transport system could have been different, but we didn't because we don't care. We care about our stomachs. Everything must be politicized. That's not the way to go. So our Zambian government should focus on building modern transportation systems, because clearly Lusaka is coming to a standstill. Traffic is pathetic. At 17 hours, 7 hours, you can't move. Go to hybrid roundabout there. When you're going to Choston, you'll be shocked. I was in traffic for 1 hour, my car did not move. 1 hour. I even turned off my engine. And we are watching. That is becoming bad for business. So as a government, we have to develop a reliable energy and communication network. Look at our communication system. Our communication system is bad for business. We buy bundles for 1 month that finish in 2 hours. Look at that. In some areas, there's no network. You have to go to a small mountain, then you begin to talk. In the 21st century, in 2023, Zambia has areas where there is no network. Literally no network. How do we grow like that? So these are the areas our government should be focusing on. Reduce talking about CDF. Let's give 28.5. No. Focus on developing issues that are going to bring development. Because if you give people money, they will simply throw it. It will not work. Human capital development. The Singaporean government has done well. Like we said here, look at the slide I showed you earlier. Look at this slide. Look at that. Singapore promotes a lifelong of learning. In Zambia, we don't like to learn. We are okay watching a young girl twerking her waist all day. We are reacting, we are commenting. But when there's important financial information to help us build our businesses, we don't. We hate learning. Now, without knowledge, you cannot grow. The Bible says a man who increases in knowledge is a powerful man. What gives you power is the knowledge that you acquire. What gives you confidence is the knowledge that you acquire. What gives you good self-esteem is the knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, my friend, you are done. So our system should focus more on human capital development. How can we enhance our education system? We cannot be in the 21st century when you have kids drawing grasshoppers. What is the meaning of that? Little boys in India, in China are making phones. They are inventing things. But here, our little boys don't even know anything about phones. All they know is to draw a grasshopper, to start counting colors. What is that? So we are supposed to look for things that are going to help us improve and enhance our education system. Skills training programs must be promoted. This is what Singapore has done. Look at the first slide I showed you. Look at the GDP for Singapore. Singapore has a GDP of $364 billion. Zambia has $19 billion. We are 18 times lower than the Singaporeans, and yet we are 18.8 million. These are only 5.7 million. They have a population 3 times lower than ours, but they are 18 times more productive than us. They got their independence in 1965. We got ours in 1964. They have a strategic location. We too have a strategic location because we're a landlocked country. We are linked to other nations. But look at the performance. We are extremely behind, 18 times behind. We don't even have records of millionaires in this country. There's no specific record of how many millionaires we have. So these are some of the lessons that the Zambian government can learn from Singapore, develop reliable energy and communication networks, because we have seen that in this country, fuel is what drives our economy. When fuel goes up, everything goes up. What are we doing about it to have reliable energy? For example, electricity. What are we doing about it? We only have one company providing electricity. The entire country, after over 50 years of independence, we will depend on one country to supply electricity. One country. So human capital is extremely important. Our government should focus on promoting skills learning programs. Of course, these programs are there, but they are there on paper. On paper, if you look at these things, they are well documented, but there's nobody to implement them. Promote entrepreneurship. We saw Dumisani Ngube walking from Solwezi to Zambia, and it was sad to see some people were mocking him. They're saying, no, go and look for a wife. This is a comfortable man. He has employed people. He's paying salaries. He has made it possible for some people to get married, to have their own homes, and contribute to the country's GDP. And yet he said, let me help you with the knowledge. You mock him. Even pages, big pages, were posting him, trying to drive a narrative as if the man is confused. Our government should look at people like our brother Dumisa and say, how do we work with you? It's not everybody who is supposed to be a politician for them to work with the government. No, work with SMEs, find the trainers, and help them so that they can help their community. If you look at our Zambian, entrepreneurship system, we just have a few people doing things. We are not interested. If there's a musician who is performing somewhere, you are going to see thousands of people to go. There's a person like Dumisani holding a Africa Mastering conference, is being insulted. What do you learn by watching a musician twerk around? Honestly, not disrespect, but just to be fair, if we are to compare the two conferences, we compare a musician and somebody teaching you how to make money. Of course, entertainment is good. We all want to feel good. But there should be time to be allocated for learning, and our government should promote that to the full. If the government can be involved, our people will see it's serious. In Singapore, it's mandatory to save. In Singapore, it's mandatory to save for your health. In Zambia, it is not. People are broke. When they are sick, they go in debt. And then because they're in debt while they are sick, they even die fast. If our government can look at that, how do we make saving mandatory? That can help. Look at the good governance and anti-corruption measures. This is something we can learn from Singapore. Our Zambian government can strengthen transparency and accountability in public administration. Somebody told me a few days ago, they went to get a certificate from the Nursing Council of Zambia, somewhere beyond there. They paid some time back, they lost their receipt. They go into the office of the office bearer, they talk to this person, no, I paid for this NCC license, I want to get it. They say, no, it's nowhere to be seen. But they direct the person to go and see the guard. When the guy went to see the guard, he tells the guard, please help me, I'll be able to see what I can do. Within 10 minutes, the certificate was issued. How did the guard know where the certificate was? People in offices couldn't. But they go and tell the guard, go. So we have very, very, weak systems when it comes to, preventing corruption. I wish I got the number for that person who was telling me this story. Maybe I could have brought him to come and explain what actually happened. So that is sad. So our Zambian government should be able to implement effective anti-corruption policies and enforcement, not just targeting politicians. No, that's not how you fight corruption. There are lots of corrupt citizens, slay queens, lots of business owners. You are letting them go free. As long as you're not a politician, it's okay to be corrupt. You leave a lot of corrupt people walking around free. Or you target our politicians. We are tired. We want to see a fair system. You see these young ladies popping up, posting cars, expensive buildings. Do an audit. Where do you work? How do you make your money? Understand those things. That is going to strengthen the anti-corruption fight. Not just targeting politicians, but also the citizens. That's extremely important for growth. So these are some of the lessons I felt the Zambian government can draw from the Singaporean government. So if you look at all these variables, they have helped Singapore to be where it is today. 40% of their population are millionaires. That's extremely amazing. 2 out of every 5 households are millionaires. That's extremely amazing. And for them to be a millionaire, you need to have over 1 million US dollars. That's extremely fantastic. All right. So, what about the Zambian citizens? What lessons can we learn as Zambians? Aside from our ever hardworking government, how about us, the citizens? Like we said, the Zambian citizens, we like to focus so much on the government making our lives better. Government boma yanganepo izalanga na pa vintu vingati boma. There's only so much the government can do. It is people like you and me who need to be creative to create jobs and help the government in eradicating poverty. So the Zambian people, we have to learn to prioritize education. Like I said earlier, we hate to learn. We hate to learn. You can tell when you see a learning program, very few people will be watching. Look at somebody twerking somewhere, thousands of people. Look at somebody insulting somewhere, thousands of people reacting, commenting, sharing. So we love mediocrity more than we love education. Our love for mediocrity is stronger than our love for education and growth. This is why we are always criticizing people who have maintained businesses. A good example is Mr. Stambara Moore has been criticized for simply maintaining a business and building it, making it stronger. Dumisani, for simply teaching people to make money, has been insulted left, right, and center. Why? Because we hate education. So, as citizens, we must begin to learn how to prioritize education. We have to learn to foster a culture of lifelong learning. Learning never ends. We have to keep learning. But we don't do that. Look at the work ethic that we have. People in Singapore have a very strong work ethic. Corruption has been reduced to a higher degree as compared to here. So we have to keep on now emphasizing the importance of dedication, discipline, and perseverance. We easily give up in Zambia. You have a smaller problem. I saw somebody who killed somebody who committed suicide because they owed 13,000. 13,000 kwacha, somebody kills himself. Look at that. Imagine 13,000, only 13,000. And somebody took his life because he owed 13,000. What is the meaning of that? We have a very poor attitude to life. We lack perseverance. Whenever we have a smaller problem, we look for an easy way out. This is where we see people being swindled every now and then. So, as Zambian, we have to develop strong work ethic. We have to encourage a culture of continuous improvement and professional development. It is not the duty of your boss to take you to school. When you are working in a company or you are doing a business, you may begin to do what? To upgrade your qualifications. I've always shared with you people, I pushed a wheelbarrow and I'm proud to share. I am a qualified chartered accountant, certified financial analyst. I have a few other credentials. All right. I was pushing a wheelbarrow. We have to encourage a culture of continuous improvement because for me, success is not how much money you have. Success is how much have you improved from last year to today. That is success. I was pushing a wheelbarrow. Who I am today, I'm not pushing a wheelbarrow. I have moved, I have improved. That is success. So success is not just about money, but improvement, continuous improvement, professional development. Attend professional seminars, workshops, learn from other people, learn how to do things and how not to do things. As Zambians, we have to embrace technology and innovation. It bothers me sometimes. Somebody calls me and tells me, I want to join your class, but I don't want to learn online. I don't like online. I want to meet physically. I say, this is 21st century. We're in 2023. There's AI. There are several other platforms that have come on board. Really just want to meet with me. You just want us to meet physically. Why? We have not embraced the change in technology. We're not innovative. So anything that looks like technology, we think it's a scam. Because somebody's doing it online, we don't trust them. We say, no, it's a scam. All you want is to meet them physically. You're wasting time, money on transport or on fuel, time for you to moving, prepare yourself. Oh, that is a lot. You could have been doing something productive. So if we embrace technology, it is going to help us to grow as Zambians. How can we use technology to our own good? Can we develop some apps? Look at the guy for Orlando. He developed an app from his kitchen in Chilenje somewhere. Look at a few other guys, the guy for Afri Delivery. Technology can change your life. So if we embrace technology as Zambians, we become more innovative. We learn. If you go to YouTube, spare some time to watch things about the emerging technologies, learn how to use those things. I do that myself. I've been doing a lot of research about AI, birds, chatbots. I've been doing a lots of research on these things, and I've seen how they can improve my career, and I've seen areas where I need to go if I'm going to compete and succeed. So you have to allocate time for learning, even just 10 minutes in a day to learn what is this AI? How can I use Chat GPT to make my work easier? How can I use chatbots? What are these birds? You learn things about technology. How can I market online? How can I sell my first one quarter online? Those are the things we must be focusing on as a citizen. Support research and development initiatives. Don't just comment on issues, research, read, go to Google, research, go to YouTube, watch a video, check from different websites, read books. That's going to help you to learn more. But also, even that, we need to also look at civic responsibility. As Zambians, we have to encourage active participation in community development. Now we have CDF. Or we say, you know what, near our politicians, sometimes let's get involved, let's apply. The reason why sometimes we don't benefit from these things because we don't apply. We say it's for politicians, but because our system is messed up. But let's change that narrative. Let's give it a shot. Let's try and apply for CDF and see if it will be given to us. We want to participate in what is happening in our economy. Now, there's this other area of interest that I thought I should bring to your attention, friends. And this one is coming from the case study I did, of course, on Singapore's healthcare system. If you look at Singaporeans, and this is good for business, a healthy investor is a happy investor. If you want to be an investor, you must take your health seriously. You don't want to invest and then die quickly. No. You want to enjoy the fruits of your hard work. Look at Singapore. Singapore has mandatory saving. It's mandatory to save for your health in Singapore. It's mandatory. It's law to save. When you are sick, you don't want to be a burden to anybody. You want to use your own savings. So everybody saves for their wealth. It's mandatory. Zambian can also learn from that. Our government can learn from that policy. Let's make healthcare systems mandatory. Of course, we have NIMA, which I think is extremely fantastic, but we can also do better. We can develop it even further. I think that NIMA helps a lot. I love NIMA so much. It makes a difference. But that does not mean it can't be improved. It can be improved. We have seen some areas where improvement is needed. For some serious infections, diseases, NIMA does not cover you. They can go up to a certain percentage. Then you have to foot the bill on your own. We can still improve. Also, on the money we deduct. Public-private partnership, where the government freely works with the public, not just on paper, but in real life. Look at the events when there's an event. The one you saw where the president was talking to the youths at Mulungushi. Only rich kids were there. No youths who don't even know the criteria the government uses to invite people to go and be in parliament. All we see is if you have a Facebook page, you have a following, before you know it, you have a card to go to parliament. No substance at all. You invite people because they have a Facebook following to go to parliament. There should be a transparent criteria for the public to know what's happening. You need to work with the public-private partnership. Just because somebody has a following does not mean they are good for business. No, it doesn't. Identify people with real talent and allow those great minds to be close to you, to work with you. Those are the youths you want to be close because they're going to create an impact. Affordable healthcare system is one thing that has made Singapore to succeed. They have given so much subsidies and insurance schemes to the health system. In Zambia, if you go to the hospital, you find that there's no Panadol in the clinics. No simple Panadol. That's sad. So These are important variables in the health sector, partly because the key outcomes are going to be high life expectancy. Like in Singapore, people have very high life expectancy. People live long, they grow old. There's low infant mortality rate. In Zambia, babies die every single day. Efficient healthcare delivery system because we are going to give it the resources that it deserves. These are the things that can improve our economy. And if you look at the other, of course, the other variable, the other slide I wanted us to look at here is this one: sustainable development and environmental conservation in Singapore that Zambia can imitate. What can we learn from Singapore as Zambians? Sustainable development initiatives in Singapore. Look at urban greening and biodiversity conservation. That's something we can learn. Water management and conservation efforts, we can learn those things. Clean energy adoption and environmental sustainability, these are the things we can learn. Environmental conservation efforts. Singapore has efficient waste management systems. We need that here in Zambia. If you pay for a garbage company to come and pick your garbage at your place, they take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They are nowhere to be seen. You have to keep calling. You call the counselor. You call them. They are not coming to pick up our garbages. They're not coming to pick up these things because even the waste management system is a mess. All those are bad for business. Conservation of natural resources. Our natural resources are being plundered. We only hear, no, there's a guy who went to dig gold, he was caught. There's this mountain here. We don't conserve our natural resources because we overly depend on them. We have to focus on, put more emphasis on eco-friendly practices. We educate our citizens. Zambia can learn from Singapore. Singapore has emphasized so much on eco-friendly practices, which has protected the climate. If you mess up the climate, you cut a lot of trees, will be in charcoal, there will be no rain. These are the things we have to teach our people. How about other relevant statistics and outcomes? We have seen in Singapore there's a reduction in carbon emissions, which we can also experience. There's increased use of renewable energy sources, which we can also encourage and be able to experience. So these are some of the things that I felt I can bring to your attention, and maybe we can learn something from Singapore as Zambians. So let's look at a summary of what we have discussed this afternoon. We have looked at a number of issues. Number one, we have looked at, we have compared Zambia and Singapore in terms of population. Singapore is at 5.7, Zambia 18.8 million. GDP, we have looked at GDP and we have seen that Zambia, when it comes to GDP, Zambia, of course, is lagging behind. We are at 19 billion, Singapore 364 billion. We have looked at development levels. Zambia is a low income level country. Singapore is a high income level country. We have also looked at Singapore's high household ratio of millionaires. About 40% of household ratio are millionaires. 2 out of every 5 households are millionaires. We have looked at factors contributing to Singapore's success. We looked at economic policies, right, which are pro-business, the education system that supports lifelong learning, infrastructure, which has efficient transportation network systems, and good governance that allows accountability for leaders. We have looked at lessons for the Zambian government, for example, economic diversification. Our government needs to diversify. It's high time we forgot about copper and stop depending on copper so much. There are several other things we can do to grow our economy. It's high time we stop talking about debt. There are several other things we can do. Infrastructure investment, human capital development, and good governance. These are the things that we can learn from. Not these people. We're not saying our governance is very bad. Or we are saying that it can be improved, right? It's not bad, but we are saying that it can be improved. Something can be done about it. We have also looked at lessons Zambians can learn from the Singaporeans. We looked at emphasis on education. Zambians hate to learn. We want to learn an MBA in 2 seconds. People want short videos. How do you learn valuable information in 2 minutes? You need somebody to explain to you, somebody to make projections, somebody to do calculations, to analyze the risk. You can't learn those things in 2 minutes. But unfortunately, our Zambian culture with education is extremely appalling. We want short videos for 2 minutes, 1 minute. The more short videos you watch, the more junk information you consume. That's the sad part. You have no direction. So let's allocate time for knowledge, for learning. Let's have a strong work ethic. You can't have people in the 21st century paying, bribing somebody to get a certificate from the Nursing Council of Zambia, whatever that is. You can't have people paying somebody just to get a transfer from one province to the next. You have to go through a list of people you pay. This guy you pay. This guy. It's a long process. It shouldn't be so hard in the 21st century. Innovation and civil responsibility. All these are the things we can embrace. We have looked at the case study for Singapore's healthcare system. They have made it mandatory for every Singaporean to save for their health. So, as Zambia, I strongly believe that Zambia can do better if we learn from Singapore. There are several other variables we have talked about that we can put into practice and learn from the Singaporeans. So, these are some of the things I thought I could share with you guys. All right. And I want to say thank you very much for coming through. And if there's any questions and contributions, those are welcome. If you want to learn more about finances, financial planning and investment, cash flow expansion, you're a married person, want to learn about family finance, you're a single person, want to learn about multiplying your money, starting a business, managing risk, we'll be happy to work with you. You can send us an email on that email that is showing down there, or you can simply call us on the number that has been shown on that particular slide. So, guys, this has been an awesome, awesome, awesome time. I'm extremely happy that you joined me this afternoon, and of course, we have looked at a few things together. So, this was a presentation that we looked at a comparative analysis of Zambia and Singapore and the lesson that the Zambian people can learn from the Singaporeans. So, we have seen that Singapore has only 5.7 million people and they got their independence in 1965. Strategic location, which we all have, but their GDP is 18 times higher than ours. Why? Because these people are more productive. They love to learn. We too can do the same, right? It is not too late for us to make a difference. Just the way Singapore has been able to perform, we too can perform. So, guys, thank you so very much for joining me this afternoon. Thank you very much. May God bless you. May God fulfill you. And I wish you well. It's bye for now. See you in our next episode.